Let's take a look at the class and student reports that are in the mCLASS Home portal. So we're going to once again come back to Anna Diaz's first grade class, and we're going to explore the benchmark tab. So let's take a look at the beginning of the year, right when Ms. Diaz has completed her assessments of her 15 students. The first thing that she sees is a summary page of how everyone is done, and she quickly notices that 2/3 of her students, 10 of them, are below and well below the benchmark. Over here, we could see skill by skill, so she might notice pretty quickly that we have 10 students below the benchmark for letter sounds. That's going to be an important part of our upcoming instruction. Now, what we're trying to do here in mCLASS is not send teachers to a lot of different reports for the different kinds of things that they need. We really want them to be able to discover and do their grassroots own data analysis through exploration in the platform. Now, of course, this might be a teacher working, it might be a few different teachers coming in as a team during MTSS meetings and the like, all working through on their own laptops. As they come down into the class list, we have every student's scores and every column is sortable. So Ms. Diaz could click on the composite score, the overall measure of reading risk, and quickly see which were the students at the beginning of the year who needed intensive intervention, strategic support, marked by yellow, who are at the grade level benchmark, and those students who are above the grade level benchmark. These scores are predicting reading risk for the end of the year, so they could tell you how much overall support to give to each child. But in order to know what is the nature of the instruction to work at, you'd want to look at the individual school measures, skill measures. So again, we flagged letter sounds as being a potential area. When we sort it, we quickly can see which were the students in need of most support and how they were doing on the precursor skills, because everything is from left to right. And as we scroll down again, we see how all of our class is doing in letter sounds. If I'm curious about a particular student, say Emmy Brown, at the beginning of the year, how she did on her letter sounds, I could just click on any number that I see. And I can see that she only scored 11 letter sounds correct in a minute, which was well below the benchmark. And she couldn't blend any of the nonsense words. And so here we see what she's done. Not too many mistakes, but was sounding out the letters really slowly. If we take a look at her phonemic segmentation, we can see that this is also an area that needs work, right? She's able to do, this is the exact transcript from her probe. So we could see that the word for, which would be or, she identified the and then stopped. And this is kind of the storyline that we have here for Emmy. Did it very slowly, so she's picking up some of the initial sounds. Now I could look at this a completely different way for Emmy. Let's say I knew that she came from a Spanish speaking home. So in Spanish, there isn't the h, the w, and the ah sound. So I see that Emmy is coming out of the gate and she gets her initial sound in for. She tries but makes a mistake on the h, but she does make the h in who and segments this correctly. Skipped on and then did do the w in wave. So this is kind of interesting because it's telling us that because this is measuring productive skills in how you broke down, segmented the word, we can see that Emmy can produce these sounds and hear these sounds that are not native to her home language. But it could be that what she's doing is going really, really slowly, which is why it will be important to continue to practice this for Emmy. And again, anytime that you have a number, the words well below and the color to tell us how a student is doing, just click it and you have the probe transcript. There is Emmy's oral language at the beginning of the year. And again, we could see which sentences she was able to repeat back where her errors were. In this case, we could see that because Emmy scored 0 on her decoding and on her word reading, the gating rules, the discontinue rules in mCLASS and in Devil's 8th edition meant that she did not need to do the oral reading fluency. And we could see that it's just marked off right here that it was discontinued, and yet she still has an overall measure of reading risk. If we drill down a little bit further, we see Emmy's personal student profile and the historical data. Now here, I have just beginning of year, middle of year, as we could see that Emmy has made a lot of progress, as we know, across all of her measures. And as usual, we can always just click on any of these and immediately see the transcript of when the measure was done. So these follow students from grade to grade, class to class, even school to school. So if we had a few years worth of data for Emmy going back to kindergarten, her second grade teacher would be able to have that full historical pattern, both on the overall composite scores, but down to the measure, and be able to click into every one from the prior year to be able to see how she did. We could just imagine the power of that, of getting your second grade class and then being able to look in at the end of year specific probe transcripts so that you as a teacher would be able to figure out a lot about your incoming class and where they left off at the end of last year. All the progress monitoring measures for Emmy are available in her historical data as well. And for her text reading comprehension probe, we would be able to see that complete history over here as well. In addition to the benchmark reports that we've just gone into in depth, Ms. Diaz, of course, has the full set of progress monitoring reports for her class. She also has the goal setting reports, as we've taken a look at before. And then again, she's able to do the goal outcome reports. So these we've looked at together in a different video, but let's not forget that as we really want to understand the progress of our students between benchmarks as we're instructing them in an MTSS system, we really want to make full usage of the classroom level progress monitoring, goal setting, and growth outcomes reports. Of course, we also want to be looking really carefully at individual students' instruction and the targeted instant groups and the lessons that are available for each group, again, as we've seen in different videos. Last but not least, in our tour of the classroom reports is the Home Connect letters for parents at the beginning, middle, and end of year for each child in English and Spanish are downloadable as PDFs that could be used in parent-teacher conferences or sent home to students. Today, Mrs. Diaz wanted to follow a specific group of students more closely so that she could really get quick access to how they're doing over the course of the year in their progress monitoring. Ms. Diaz will be able to create a custom informal group. So when I do this drop-down box over here, we could see that Ms. Diaz has a number of different groups. Her first grade class were all 15 students. Maybe she just wanted to keep an eye on a few of the students and she created a group called Follow for Intervention. Here you could see that when we look at the benchmark reports we've seen before, it now contains just the 3 students in the class that she'd want to do. And let's imagine that we're following them over the course of time and we look at the summary tab. We could see how these 3 students moved over the course of the year. We could see that Leah Crane, for example, moved from the well below to the below category. When you create a custom group like this, that group will persist across all the different tabs. So for example, the instant targeted instruction and groupings that exist in mCLASS would be available for these 3 students in the Follow for Intervention group. Now, let's say I were a school leader, maybe a reading coach or a principal of the school. I could go so far as to create a custom group of all of my first graders or a different group for all of my third graders. And then I would get a full benchmark report, the same view as teachers use, but I'd be able to do all of these discoveries across that grade. And in fact, I'd be able to have instructional groups for my whole first grade to be able to see the targeted instruction of who needs what. If I wanted to create a custom group that maybe is even across grades, second and third graders who really need work in a particular skill, I'd be able to create that group up here in the dropdown and then have instruction that even goes across grades. I could see the groupings. If I were a district leader, I could even take it a step further. If I wanted to go down to a class, I could first select the school and then select the specific teachers, classrooms, or custom groups in that school. So as a leader, I'm always able to see the same roles and the same perspective that a teacher themselves sees for their own students.